Blake Lively is definitely in the midst of a personal and professional storm. And Ryan Reynolds stepping into the courtroom to testify has made this situation far more explosive than anyone anticipated. The sequence of events unfolding in the pre-trial hearings, including the revelation of her messages with Justin Baldoni, adds an entirely new dimension to the story. Ryan's testimony, especially under oath, feels like the tipping point, where the public image of Blake that has been carefully curated for years might be irreversibly damaged. This courtroom drama isn't just about the legal side of things, it's about the human emotions and conflicts that happen behind the glossy Hollywood facade. Ryan's version of events, showing the tension in their marriage and the emotional distress caused by the texts with Baldoni, paints a picture of Blake as someone more concerned with her public image than the truth. This doesn't just affect their personal life, could have serious repercussions for Blake's career, especially if this case continues to drag on in the public eye. The way this has all unfolded speaks volumes about how the entertainment industry and its stars operate, where personal issues and legal battles can spill over into public view, thanks to the power of social media and court documents. And let's not forget about the surprise addition of Taylor Swift to the witness list. That's a bombshell that suggests the level of intrigue this case has generated at the heart of it. This is a stark reminder of how personal relationships, celebrity images, and career choices intertwine in the public sphere. The fact that Ryan Reynolds is now a key player in this drama might shift the narrative entirely. What do you think? Do you feel like this could be the turning point for Blake Lively's public image? It just keeps getting more intense. Ryan Reynolds dropping that bomb about Blake's concern over her image and brand shows just how much of this has been a calculated PR maneuver on her part. The fact that she was worried about losing her podcast deal, her seat at the table, and the brand she's carefully built speaks volumes about how she might have prioritized public perception over genuine emotional distress. To hear it directly from Ryan, especially in such a cold, composed manner, it's a big blow to her narrative. By saying that he never saw Blake show emotional distress after the alleged incident with Justin Baldoni, Ryan's testimony essentially undercuts the victimhood angle Blake had been trying to push. If she was genuinely affected, wouldn't it have been visible to those closest to her? His calm and clinical delivery, combined with the fact that this is all now part of the official record, makes it difficult for Blake to keep spinning her version of events. This is a complete shift in how this story will be viewed. It's no longer just a celebrity scandal, it's a legal battle with real consequences for both Blake's career and public image. The way Ryan's testimony is dismantling Blake's narrative also reflects the personal strain within their marriage. What happens next will likely determine whether Blake can salvage her career or if she'll be permanently tarnished by this public unraveling. This case is now a courtroom spectacle, not just for Hollywood watchers, but also for anyone paying attention to the power dynamics behind the celebrity facade. Do you think Ryan's testimony is going to be enough to shift public perception for good? Or do you think Blake will be able to spin it in her favor once again? The tension in this story is palpable. The moment Ryan Reynolds detailed the discovery of the flirtatious and inappropriate messages between Blake and Justin Baldoni, the entire narrative took a dramatic shift. This wasn't just about the alleged misconduct. Anymore, it became about trust, transparency, and Blake's reaction to the situation. Ryan's calm but pointed recounting of the argument paints a picture of a deeply troubled marriage. Not just one with a high-profile celebrity couple, but one with real emotional turmoil beneath the glossy surface. Blake's attempt to downplay the situation, calling the texts harmless industry banter and accusing Ryan of overreacting, suggests a troubling dismissal of the gravity of the situation. But what stands out even more is the alleged conversation where Blake seemed more concerned about the public fallout than the actual emotional impact of the messages. The idea of controlling the narrative before Baldoni could speak out hints at a much more calculated approach to handling the situation. And that's a dangerous precedent to set. especially for someone in Blake's position, where her brand and image are so tied to her public persona. Ryan's chilling admission that he didn't think Blake would actually go through with it, but thought she was just trying to save her career, adds a layer of cynicism to the entire case. It speaks volumes about how deeply intertwined their personal and professional lives have become, and how the line between personal distress and career preservation is dangerously blurred in the world of high-profile celebrity marriages. The fact that the discovery of the messages predated the complaint complicates the timeline and raises the question: was this really a case of victimization, or was it part of a bigger strategy? This has completely turned the case on its head. What was initially framed as a misconduct issue is now being framed as a personal marital breakdown, and it's clear that the stakes are high for both Blake and Ryan. As the court digs deeper into the layers of their marriage, it's starting to feel like this will be a much more public and devastating unraveling of not just their relationship, but also the careful image Blake had crafted. If Blake's story truly has layers that aren't aligning, the truth could be far more complex than anyone initially thought. It will be interesting to see how this develops. Do you think this courtroom battle will reveal even more contradictions? Or is this the start of the final unraveling of Blake's carefully constructed public life? This development completely alters the trajectory of the case. The discovery of these emails not only reinforces Ryan Reynolds' version of events, but also provides a chilling look into Blake Lively's strategic thinking during what was supposed to be a personal, emotional crisis. The reference to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's infamous trial is particularly telling. Blake seemingly compared her situation to a high-profile public battle over personal issues, and it's no surprise that this comparison hit the courtroom like a lightning bolt. Blake's email to her publicist about owning the narrative before things got out of hand suggests a far more calculated approach than initially presented. Her assertion that she would destroy Justin Baldoni if the texts were leaked shows a complete disregard for the real emotional stakes of the situation and more concern for her public image and career. It's as if she viewed the whole incident as a media battle to be won, rather than a personal betrayal to be handled with honesty and transparency. The authenticity of these emails confirmed through digital forensics and an undeniable layer of credibility to the defense's case. There's no longer any ambiguity about the timeline. In the courtroom has shifted its focus to Blake's own words and actions, which directly contradict her public claims. This isn't just a minor contradiction, it's a serious inconsistency that casts doubt on her entire narrative. What's fascinating and almost terrifying is how easily Blake seemed to think she could control the narrative. Her reference to Amber Heard's strategy is revealing. It shows a willingness to manipulate public opinion, which is disturbing in the context of what was supposed to be a deeply personal situation. With these emails now in play, it seems like Blake's carefully curated image is falling apart in real time. The courtroom drama has gone from a case of misconduct to a battle over trust, image, and public perception, with Blake now in the hot seat for actions that contradict her original claims. Ryan's cool and factual testimony, combined with this damning evidence, is painting a picture of someone far more concerned with their public persona than the emotional reality of the situation. This is far from over. But it seems like Blake's situation is rapidly becoming less about the alleged misconduct and more about a crisis of credibility. How do you think this will affect her public image moving forward? Will she be able to recover? Or is this the beginning of the end of her carefully constructed career? Next move, when you see this situation as a battle, not a personal crisis, highlighting the chilling, premeditated nature of Blake's actions. The emails, with their starkly calculated approach, turned the narrative on its head. What began as a case about possible misconduct now appeared to be more about brand manipulation and PR control. The shift in Blake's PR strategy, timed perfectly with her legal action, left many questioning the authenticity of her motives. The sudden cancellation of podcast appearances and the withdrawal of product placements weren't just signs of a personal crisis, they seemed like calculated steps to reframe her public persona as a victim. A woman wronged by the industry and the people around her, particularly Justin Baldoni. This kind of repositioning isn't just about recovery. It's about control. And it's clear that Blake was attempting to control both the public perception and the narrative surrounding her. What made this even more damaging for Blake was the fact that throughout the trial, her own legal team had not responded aggressively to the defense's accusations. They had been silent as the defense laid out their case, presenting evidence that contradicted her narrative without having to do much more than present the facts. The lack of response or objection to the evidence raised by Ryan Reynolds' testimony and the email exhibits left the courtroom with little doubt that the defense's strategy was having a devastating effect. The judges pointed question to Blake's lawyer about amending their strategy showed a level of concern that had not been present before. It wasn't just about the evidence anymore. It was about the larger questions surrounding Blake's intentions and the narrative she was trying to spin. No objections or clarifications were raised, signaling that even Blake's legal team was fully aware of the impact these new revelations were having on the case. For the media, this was a moment to reevaluate Blake's public persona. Analysts, reporters, and commentators began comparing her situation to other high-profile celebrity cases involving media manipulation and legal battles, making clear that what Blake had been doing was not about seeking justice, but about controlling the narrative and protecting her brand. As one legal analyst noted, the use of words like destroy and own the narrative was a sign of calculated strategy, not panic. This was about shaping the public's perception and positioning herself as a victim in a way that would benefit her career. Rather than addressing any real emotional or legal concerns, this new revelation leaves a permanent stain on her credibility. If Blake was hoping to portray herself as an innocent bystander in a world of misconduct, these emails now cast her as the architect of the narrative, an individual manipulating both the media and the situation for personal gain. At this stage in the trial, the dynamic has shifted dramatically. The focus has gone from the alleged harassment to Blake's attempts to manipulate public perception. It's not just about proving whether she was wrong. It's about showing the world that she had been playing a much deeper game. One where her personal crisis was simply a stepping stone to maintaining her public image. With these revelations now on record, how do you think Blake's career will be affected in the long term? Can she recover from this, or has she permanently damaged her reputation? One of the harshest blows Ryan could face his entire career trajectory, built on a reputation of relatability and likability, was suddenly at risk for Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't just about the professional fallout. It was about maintaining the brand he'd worked tirelessly to cultivate for over a decade. Deadpool, his own business ventures, and even personal partnerships were being put under the microscope. And it was all because of his wife's actions that seemed increasingly like a calculated PR move. When news of the court case and Blake's questionable actions went public, Ryan's ability to maintain control over his image was shattered. Disney pulling the plug on his press tours and promotional materials for Deadpool 3 was just the beginning. The Deadpool franchise was no longer a surefire hit, became something to avoid, with all eyes on the personal drama overshadowing the films themselves. In Hollywood, image is everything, and Ryan Reynolds was, for the first time in his career, being dragged into a situation where his personal life was threatening to ruin his professional reputation. Apple TV Plus's withdrawal from Ryan's $18 million deal was the next devastating blow. To have a major player like Apple pull out of a project so close to production because of the family complications tied to him was a clear indication of how toxic the public perception of the Reynolds lively brand had become. Deadlines. Anonymous source was blunt. Anything associated with that family is just too hot to touch. It wasn't just about financial losses. It was about Ryan's inability to protect the business he had so carefully built. Including his passion projects and investments, Hugh Jackman's concerns further exemplified the depth of the issue. As Ryan's longtime friend and co-star, Jackman was on the front lines of how this scandal could impact not just Ryan but the Deadpool franchise as a whole. Marvel's decision to keep the franchise under wraps for the time being wasn't a coincidence. Jackman's warning about the scandal overshadowing the film showed how deeply this personal drama was infiltrating what should have been professional territory. Ryan had spent years crafting an image as an entrepreneur who defied the norm, from his ownership of Mint Mobile to the success of his aviation gin. He'd positioned himself as Hollywood's everyman who could also thrive as a businessman. But now, as his own wife's actions became the subject of courtroom drama and public scrutiny, Ryan's carefully curated persona seemed at risk of crumbling. The question, of course, remains: why did Ryan Reynolds choose to publicly testify against his wife, despite the potential fallout for both their careers? Some might argue it's a testament to his commitment to the truth and his brand. Ryan's decision to testify in such a brutal way may have been a form of damage control, a way to ensure that his career didn't continue to suffer from the ripple effects of Blake's decisions. For Ryan, this wasn't just about family or loyalty. It was about protecting his own professional future, even if it meant throwing his wife under the bus. For Blake, the case has revealed not only her questionable PR strategies, but also the harsh reality of Hollywood where personal actions can have a professional price. Ryan's testimony exposed a side of Blake many didn't expect to see, unraveling the narrative she had so carefully constructed. But perhaps more telling is the damage that Blake's personal and public actions have caused to Ryan's career, which he is still trying to repair. Ultimately, this scandal has led to a complete reversal of fortunes for the Reynolds Lively brand. While Blake's actions have cost her professionally, Ryan's public distancing and the resulting fallout have put his own career on the line as well. The question remains, can either of them salvage their careers, or has the damage been done beyond repair? What do you think? Do you think Ryan's decision to testify publicly against Blake was a justified move? Or has it caused irreparable damage to their relationship and careers? Ryan Reynolds' decision to testify against Blake Lively in court is revealing a much darker undercurrent in Hollywood, where personal turmoil can have far-reaching professional consequences. As the fallout continues, it's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't just a marriage gone awry, it's a catastrophic brand failure. For Ryan, the stakes were incredibly high. His brand, carefully constructed over years through his successful ventures like Deadpool, Mint Mobile, and aviation gin, was now being dragged into a public mess. The chemistry between him and Blake had been central to the marketing of multiple films, including Deadpool 3, but now with their personal issues exposed to the public, Marvel and other studios are reportedly considering drastic measures, like separating the couple during promotional events or even delaying Deadpool 3 entirely. The damage had already been done, and their relationship was no longer just about personal drama. It had become a full-blown PR nightmare. One of the most devastating impacts of this scandal was the ripple effect on Ryan's other projects. Insiders revealed that Prime Video pulled out of a major project just 30 days before pre-production. This wasn't the only instance of investors and studios backing away. As the Lively Reynolds brand became tainted by association, producers began to hesitate before greenlighting anything with Ryan's name on it, unless it was absolutely squeaky clean. In the aftermath of the courtroom drama, Ryan finally spoke out, privately to his inner circle, claiming he felt betrayed not only personally, but strategically. He didn't mince words in his message, admitting that Blake's unchecked ambition had led to a catastrophic PR crisis that threatened to destroy everything he had built. The frustration was palpable as he revealed how the personal scandal had turned into a legal war zone, dragging down his career in the process. Ryan's flip in court was, in many ways, his only move. His silence had been interpreted as complicity, and staying quiet was costing him professionally. When the subpoena came, he knew he had to testify or risk losing everything. His strategy was no longer about protecting the image they had spent years building, but about survival. One of the most shocking elements of this whole debacle is how Blake's personal crisis has affected not just her own career, but Ryan's as well. Studios that had nothing to do with the scandal are now second-guessing their involvement with him. Ryan's name has become market poison in Hollywood. And that's not just a reflection of public perception. It's a direct result of the impact on his business opportunities and the films he's involved with. What's even more telling is that Ryan had resisted the pressure to distance himself from Blake for a while. Despite mounting pressure from Disney and his PR team, behind the scenes, Disney had flagged Ryan as a major brand risk, urging him to separate himself from Blake fast or face franchise-level damage. Yet Ryan stayed loyal, at least initially. But as Blake's actions escalated and the evidence against her mounted, he couldn't stay quiet any longer. The unraveling of Blake's social circle also played a part in this. Friends like Taylor Swift, Gigi Hadid, and Cara Delevingne distanced themselves from her once the extent of her involvement in the media attack against Justin Baldoni became clear. According to Ryan, Blake had been spiraling in private, but the panic attacks she was having weren't genuine. They were, in his words, part of a performance to manipulate the narrative. As he testified in court, Ryan claimed that Blake was faking distress and manipulating public perception to salvage her image and career. This is a cautionary tale about how Hollywood's complex relationship with brand management and public perception can quickly turn from a carefully controlled narrative to a complete catastrophe. Ryan Reynolds may have thought he could protect his brand from the fallout, but when his wife's actions became too much of a liability, he was forced to turn against her, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. The question remains, can Ryan Reynolds recover from this, or has this scandal irreparably tarnished his career? And more importantly, can Blake Lively rebuild her image after these revelations? Or will the fallout from this legal battle continue to haunt both of them for years to come? The courtroom drama surrounding Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds has become a sensational and heartbreaking spectacle as personal and professional lives unravel under the weight of public scrutiny. As the scandal deepens, it's clear that the fallout from this case goes beyond legal battles. It's about the destruction of two carefully curated public images and the erosion of a marriage that was once admired by many. Ryan Reynolds' decision to testify against his wife wasn't a simple betrayal, it was the result of a personal tipping point. The release of paparazzi photos featuring their daughters in compromising situations outside their school marked a final straw for Ryan. The relentless pursuit of his children by the press was something that crossed a line he couldn't ignore. Ryan's testimony in court wasn't about revenge or airing personal grievances, it was about protecting his children, his career, and his integrity. When the media began to target his family, Ryan had no choice but to speak up, even if it meant tearing apart his own personal life in front of the world. The courtroom silence after Ryan's testimony spoke volumes. It wasn't just about legal procedures or decorum, it was about the weight of the truth being laid bare for all to see. Blake, on the other hand, was visibly shaken. Her emotional breakdown in the courtroom wasn't just a reaction to Ryan's testimony, but the culmination of a series of events that had seen her carefully constructed public image completely collapse. Her tearful outburst and the subsequent actions were a clear indication that the facade she had maintained for so long was coming undone in real time. Blake's reaction to Ryan's testimony was the turning point. As she muttered repeatedly, "He was supposed to protect me," and angrily demanded that her lawyer fix this. It was clear that the weight of the legal and media storm was overwhelming her. This wasn't just a public relations crisis anymore, it was a breakdown of her identity and career. one that she had worked tirelessly to cultivate and control in the wake of these courtroom revelations. The professional consequences were swift and severe. Stephanie Jones, the PR guru who had once helped Blake craft her public persona, officially dissolved her PR agency, citing the reputational damage from the Lively case. Once Blake's most trusted advisor, Jones had now abandoned ship, underscoring just how much damage had been done. Ryan Reynolds, despite his public silence, wasn't going to sit idly by while his career and brand were being dragged through the mud. His legal team had already begun preparing for a separation, with asset separation agreements and a financial audit for their co-owned company, Maximum Effort, underway. Sponsorship deals once shared by the couple were quietly dissolved, indicating that their partnership, both personally and professionally, was on the verge of a permanent split. Blake's legal team, meanwhile, was scrambling to adjust their strategy. The damage from Ryan's testimony was so severe that they were now preparing for a revised plea deal, aiming to avoid a full jury trial. The fear was palpable. If this case went to trial, it could not only ruin Blake's career, but also irreparably harm Ryan's professional standing as well. Both sides were facing a situation where their carefully constructed images had been shattered by the very people closest to them. As the media storm rages on, one thing is clear: Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' public personas are no longer safe, and their careers may never recover from this scandal. Ryan, in particular, seems to have made a calculated decision to protect his family and career, even at the cost of his marriage. What remains to be seen is whether Blake can salvage anything from the wreckage, or if the damage to her image will be irreversible. The scandal surrounding Blake Lively has escalated into a full-blown legal and media crisis, with the fallout threatening to swallow her career entirely. The most pivotal moment in this entire saga was Ryan Reynolds' decision to testify against her. His calm, factual testimony dismantled the narrative Blake had carefully constructed, exposing a web of contradictions and questionable decisions, all of which have sent shockwaves through Hollywood. As the case continues to unfold, the legal strategy surrounding Blake's defense has evolved. Originally seen as a relatively weak, he said, she-said claim in Justin Baldoni's civil suit, the situation has gained significant traction, with more witnesses coming forward to substantiate allegations of manipulative behavior by Blake on past projects. These include claims of fabricated discomfort and attempts to remove male actors from sets. This has added new layers to the case, turning what initially seemed like a personal dispute into a broader pattern of behavior, one that now risks being examined in court as part of Baldoni's case. Hollywood's reaction has been swift and unforgiving. Agencies are backing away from Blake. Sponsorship deals are falling apart, and brand partnerships, including those tied to her Betty Buzz and Betty Boo's labels, have quietly removed her from their promotional materials. The larger question now is not whether she will win or lose the case, but whether she can survive professionally after her own husband's testimony peeled back the curtain on her actions. What's most striking about this entire ordeal is that the damage control efforts now seem futile. The industry has already started to turn its back on Blake. As the legal battle rages on, Hollywood insiders have begun to whisper about her behavior and the cost of her personal and professional decisions. The public perception has shifted dramatically, and now it's no longer just about courtroom victories. It's about whether Blake Lively can ever regain the trust of an industry that once adored her. The industry's shift in perception has been clear. Once seen as a beloved figure with a carefully curated image, Blake is now viewed as a liability. The momentum of the case is working against her, and her reputation, once meticulously constructed, is unraveling at breakneck speed. Hollywood isn't known for forgiveness, and at this point, it's unclear whether Blake can ever reclaim her spot in the industry in the end. Her survival in Hollywood is no longer in the hands of the quartets, in the hands of the industry that once made her a star. And right now, it's clear that the industry has already started whispering, "What? No one dared to say just a year ago, Blake Lively burned the house down, and now she's choking on the smoke.